She carried the last hope of her people, and it needed a human heart to survive falling stars. And Broken Heart's emergency dispatch crackled to life at 3:47 a.m., jolting Kai Mitchell from another sleepless night. Possible meteorite impact. Coordinates 40 to .3601 N, 71.0589 W. Single witness report of unusual light patterns. Kai rolled out of bed, muscle memory taking over despite his retirement from emergency services 6 months ago. Old habits died hard, especially when sleep refused to come anyway. The nightmares about the apartment fire that claimed his wife, Emma, and daughter Lily still haunted him, leaving him wandering his empty house like a ghost. He grabbed his old paramedic kit more from habit than necessity, and drove toward the coordinates in his weathered pickup truck. The witness report came from an elderly woman claiming she'd seen dancing lights that sang. Probably another case of space debris creating pretty light shows, but Kai needed the distraction. The impact site sat in a small clearing 20 minutes outside Boston. What he found defied explanation. No crater marked the ground, but a perfect circle of frost spread across the grass despite the warm September night. In the center lay what appeared to be a woman, unconscious and wearing clothes that seemed to shift color in the moonlight. Kai's medical training kicked in. He checked her pulse steady, but unusually slow. Her skin felt cool, but not dangerously so. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with angular features and silver hair that caught starlight like spun metal. Most striking were the intricate tattoos covering her arms, patterns that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Kai gently shook her shoulder. Her eyes snapped open, revealing irises that shifted from deep purple to amber. She bolted upright, speaking in a language that sounded like wind chimes mixed with thunder. When she saw Kai's confused expression, she pressed her palm against her throat and spoke again. Where am I?" Her accent was unplaceable, exotic. "You're about 20 miles outside Boston. I'm Kai. Are you hurt? What happened?" The woman, Thalari, she introduced herself, claimed to remember nothing before waking up. Her story was simple. She'd been traveling when her car broke down. She must have hit her head. But Kai noticed details that didn't add up. Her clothes were made from fabric he'd never seen, seemingly woven from light itself. She had no identification, no visible injuries, and most puzzling of all, she kept glancing at the sky as if expecting something. "I need to find lodging," Thalari said, struggling to stand. "Somewhere safe, quiet." Kai found himself offering his spare room before he could think better of it. Maybe it was her obvious vulnerability, or perhaps the loneliness that had been eating at him since Emma and Lily died. Either way, something about this mysterious woman stirred protective instincts he thought had died with his family. During the drive to his house, Thalari asked careful questions about human customs, claiming gaps in her memory from the accident. She studied everything with intense fascination: traffic lights, radio music, even the dashboard's digital clock. "Time moves differently here," she murmured, then caught herself. "I mean, when you're confused, everything seems slower." Kai's modest 2-story home felt enormous, with just him rattling around inside. He showed Thalari to the guest room, which still contained some of Emma's plants, now brown and forgotten. "Your mate?" Thalari asked, touching a dried flower with unexpected gentleness. "Wife. She died 8 months ago. House fire." The words still tasted like ash. Thalari's expression softened with genuine sympathy. "Loss of family is the deepest wound. I understand." Something in her tone suggested she understood all too well. As Kai left her to rest, he noticed a faint shimmer in the air around her, like heat waves. When he blinked, it was gone. In his own room, Kai lay awake wondering what he'd gotten himself into. Outside, something that might have been shooting stars streaked across the sky in perfect formation, too organized to be natural. Thalari stood at her window, watching them with an expression of profound sorrow. Neither of them saw the black SUVs that had begun patrolling the area, or the satellite feeds being analyzed by people in underground facilities who'd been waiting decades for this exact signal. Ancient echoes and modern fears. Rebecca Moore stared at the satellite imagery for the 3rd time, her coffee growing Cold in the sterile observation room beneath Cheyenne Mountain, the energy signature that had appeared 3 days ago matched theoretical models. Her team had been developing for 15 years models based on recovered technology most people assumed was science fiction. "Ma'am, we've triangulated the source," reported Lieutenant James Park, her youngest analyst. "Suburban Boston. The pattern matches Project Starfall parameters exactly." Rebecca nodded grimly. Project Starfall, the government's contingency plan for extraterrestrial contact, not the kind with little green men and flying saucers, but the other kind, the kind their predecessors had encountered in 1952 and classified so deeply that most presidents never learned about it. Meanwhile, Kai found himself adjusting to his mysterious houseguest with surprising ease. Thalari proved to be an excellent cook, though she prepared dishes he'd never seen before using only ingredients from his neglected garden. She claimed to be a nutritionist, which explained her knowledge of herbs and vegetables. "This needs sunlight," she said, reviving one of Emma's dying plants with her bare hands. Under her touch, the brown leaves turned green again. "Plants here are sad, disconnected." "How do you do that?" Kai asked, watching her coax life back into his dead garden. "Plants speak if you listen." Your wife understood this. Thalari gestured to the careful way Emma had arranged the garden beds. She was trying to create harmony for the first time since the fire. Kai felt something other than grief when thinking about Emma. Thalari had a way of honoring his wife's memory without treating it like a shrine to be tiptoed around. Their daily routine developed naturally. Kai still couldn't bring himself to return to work, so he spent mornings helping Thalari in the garden. She taught him to really see plants not just as decorations, but as living networks communicating through root systems and chemical signals. Her knowledge seemed encyclopedic, yet she claimed to have learned it all from her grandmother. In the afternoons, Kai would read while Thalari seemed to meditate, sitting perfectly still in the garden with her hands pressed against the earth. Sometimes he caught her speaking in that musical language, as if conversing with something he couldn't hear. "Bad dreams?" he asked one morning, finding her standing in the kitchen at dawn, staring out the window with obvious distress. "Memories," she corrected, then caught herself, from before the accident. "They're unclear." But Kai noticed how she sometimes paused mid-sentence, as if translating thoughts from another language. How she reacted to sudden noises like someone accustomed to danger. How she never fully relaxed. Even in sleep, the truth began revealing itself in small ways. Thalari's body temperature ran several degrees cooler than human normal. She needed less sleep and could see perfectly in complete darkness. Most tellingly, she had an uncanny ability to sense his emotional state, offering comfort exactly when he needed it most. "Kai," she said one evening as they sat on the porch watching fireflies, "what if I told you that some connections transcend species, that the beings can recognize each other across vast differences?" I'd say that sounds like something Emma would have believed. He studied Thalari's profile in the gathering darkness. She always claimed people could sense each other's souls. Emma was wise. Such recognition is necessary for what's coming. Before Kai could ask what she meant, his neighbor Mrs. Patterson called from across the street. "Kai, there's some government types asking questions about your lady friend." "Thought you should know." Thalari went rigid, her hand instinctively moving to press against her abdomen in a protective gesture. "They found me." "Who found you?" For a long moment, Thalari stared at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. When she looked at him again, her eyes held the weight of civilizations. "Kai, I need to tell you who I really am. But first, you must understand everything depends on your choice. Not just my life, but the future of both our peoples." In the distance, black vehicles turned onto their street, moving with the predatory patience of hunters closing in on their prey. The last normal moment of Kai's life ticked away like a clock, counting down to an explosion that would reshape everything he thought he knew about the universe, and about love that could bridge the space between worlds. Revelations and responsibilities. "My name is Thalari Nethel, last daughter of Zephyria." The words tumbled out as black SUVs surrounded Kai's house. "My people were destroyed by the Kethmer Empire 3 cycles ago. I carry within me the genetic memory of my entire civilization and something more." Kai's mind reeled, but years of emergency response had taught him to process shocking information quickly. The something more, Thalari pressed her hand against her stomach. An embryo, the last hope of my species, but it's incomplete. It needs human DNA to stabilize and awaken. Specifically, DNA from someone genetically compatible with my people. Compatible how? Your ancestors were seeded by mine, millennia ago. We guided early human development, helped you survive the last ice age. The connection runs deeper than genetics. It's emotional, spiritual. The embryo needs a bonded pair to fully develop. Red laser dots danced across the windows. A voice boomed through a megaphone. This is Major General Patricia Hayes, United States Space Command. Exit the building with your hands visible. Thalari's entire demeanor shifted. The vulnerable woman who'd been learning to trust became something far more dangerous. Her tattoos began glowing with soft blue light, and the air around her shimmered with barely contained energy. The basement, she whispered urgently. Your house sits on a convergence point. We chose this location deliberately. There's a chamber beneath your foundation that's been waiting for centuries. Impossible. I had a full inspection when I bought this place. Not anymore. Thalari placed her palm against the kitchen floor. Ancient symbols blazed to life, outlining a hidden door that opened with a sound like singing crystal. They descended into a chamber that defied physics. Larger than Kai's entire house, with walls covered in the same flowing scripts as Thalari's tattoos. At the center stood a structure that looked like a cross between an altar and a medical pod, surrounded by holographic displays showing incomprehensible data. The Nexus, Thalari explained, built by my people during their last visit to Earth. It's been dormant, waiting for this moment. Above them, boots thundered across the floors as soldiers searched the house. Major General Hayes' voice echoed down the stairwell. Thermal shows to heat signatures, but they're not in any of the rooms. Keep looking. They can't find us here, Thalari said. This space exists slightly outside normal dimensions. But Kai, you need to understand what I'm asking. If you agree to help, you'll be bonding with me on a cellular level. The process will change you, give you some of my abilities, and the child. It will be ours in every way that matters. Kai looked around the impossible chamber, thinking of his empty house above, his purposeless existence since losing Emma and Lily. What happens if I say no? I die. The embryo dies. My people's culture, their music, their art, their philosophy. 10,000 years of civilization disappears forever. Thalari's voice broke slightly. And the Kethmer will eventually find Earth. Without the genetic markers this child will carry, humanity won't survive their next expansion. And if I say yes, you become part of something larger than yourself. The child will grow knowing both human and Zephyrian heritage. Our peoples will have a future together. But Kai, she took his hands, her skin still cool but somehow comforting. I need you to know this isn't just biological. The bonding process requires genuine emotional connection. It can't be forced or faked. Above them, something exploded. The soldiers were getting impatient. Kai thought about the past few days, how Thalari had brought his dead garden back to life, how she'd helped him remember Emma with joy instead of just grief, how for the first time in months, he'd felt like he had a purpose. The child, he said slowly, it would be human too, hybrid, the best of both species, capable of surviving in either world, bridging the gap between them. Thalari stepped closer. I know this is overwhelming. You barely know me, and I'm asking you to trust me with your future, your genetic legacy. I do know you, Kai said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. I've watched you bring dead things back to life. I've seen how you grieve for your people, how you honor my memories of Emma. I know you're brave and kind and carrying an impossible burden. The Nexus hummed to life around them, responding to their proximity and rising emotional connection. Holographic displays showed to genetic patterns, beginning to align human and Zephyrian DNA, finding compatible frequencies. There's something else, Thalari said softly. The bonding isn't temporary. Once we begin this process, we'll be connected for life. You'll feel what I feel, know what I know. It's deeper than marriage in your culture. It's a joining of souls. Kai thought of Emma, wondered what she would have said. Probably something about love taking many forms. About not letting fear keep you from helping someone who needed it. How long do we have? The soldiers will break through the dimensional barrier soon. And my people's enemies, they're not far behind. Kai looked at this woman who'd fallen from the stars into his broken life, carrying the last hope of her people, and asking him to help her save the worlds. The choice should have been impossible. Instead, it felt like coming home. Tell me what we need to do. The bonding and the battle nexus responded to Kai's decision like a flower opening to sunlight. Ancient Zephyrian technology hummed to life, and the chamber filled with harmonious tones that seemed to resonate in his bones. Thalari guided him to the central platform, her hands trembling slightly, the first sign of vulnerability she'd shown since revealing her true nature. The process will hurt, she warned, helping him lie down on what looked like crystalline biopods. Your DNA needs to be rewritten at the cellular level to create compatibility. But more than that, our consciousness will merge temporarily. You'll experience my memories, feel the weight of my people's extinction, and you'll feel mine. Kai realized. The fire, losing Emma and Lily. Thalari nodded solemnly. Shared pain, shared healing. It's the only way the embryo will recognize us as true bondmates. Above them, the sound of drilling echoed through the house as Major General Hayes' team worked to breach the hidden chamber. But down here, time moved differently. The Nexus had activated temporal dilation fields, giving them the hours they needed compressed into minutes. As biocables extended from the pods and made contact with their skin, Kai felt electricity course through his nervous system. Then the real transformation began. Flash Thalari as a child on Zephyria, learning to commune with the great world trees that networked their civilization. Flash Kai at 8 years old, helping his grandfather tend a small garden, learning that every living thing deserved respect. Flash the day Thalari's bondmate Kethaval died defending their city, leaving her a widow at barely 30 cycles old. Flash the apartment fire, Kai's desperate attempts to reach his family, the moment he realized he was too late. Their pain intertwined, creating something stronger than the sum of its parts. Kai felt his human DNA accepting Zephyrian modifications, enhanced longevity, deeper sensory perception, the ability to interface with biotechnology. In return, Thalari's alien physiology adapted to human emotional patterns, learning to process love and loss the way his species did. The embryo within her responded immediately, beginning its complex development cycle. Through their shared consciousness, Kai felt its awakening, a tiny spark of life that carried the genetic memories of an entire civilization, yet was uniquely theirs. She's beautiful, Thalari whispered, tears streaming down her face as she experienced the embryo's first conscious moments. Can't you feel her? She's curious, already reaching out with her mind, trying to understand this new existence. Kai could feel it, a presence warm and inquisitive, recognizing both parents despite being barely more than a collection of specialized cells. Their daughter, the word felt natural, right? The bonding reached its climax as their neural patterns synchronized completely. For several eternal seconds, Kai experienced existence through Zephyrian senses, feeling the emotional resonance of growing plants, perceiving time as a flowing river rather than linear progression, understanding the complex harmonies that connected all living things. Then reality crashed back as explosions rocked the chamber above. "Ma'am, we've found something," Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through the breach. "Some kind of archaeological site under the house. The architecture, it's not human." Major General Hayes' response was immediate. "Deploy the containment field. If they're down there, we need them alive." Thalari and Kai separated from the biopods. Both changed. Kai felt stronger, his senses sharper. His perception expanded beyond normal human ranges. He could feel Thalari's emotions as clearly as his own determination mixed with protective fury. "How long before the baby is born?" he asked. 3 of your months, accelerated by the bonding." "But Kai, they're not just government soldiers up there." Thalari's face went pale. "I can sense Kefmer technology. They followed me here." As if summoned by her words, new sounds echoed from above, weapons fire and inhuman screams. "The invasion had begun. The chamber has defenses," Thalari said, moving to a control console that responded to her touch. "But we can't hide forever." The Kethmer will destroy this entire region to get to our daughter. Holographic displays showed the battle raging in Kai's neighborhood. Major General Hayes' soldiers were fighting alongside what appeared to be other human forces, against creatures that looked like insects crossed with nightmares 8-foot-tall beings, with chitinous armor and weapons that fired concentrated darkness. My people's ancient enemies, Thalari explained. They consume entire civilizations, stealing their genetic advantages. They want our daughter not just to eliminate the Zephyrian lineage, but to incorporate our abilities into their own evolution. Then we fight, Kai said simply. We're the people against an invasion force. No, Kai corrected, feeling the truth of it in his enhanced consciousness. We're the bridge between two worlds, and I have a feeling Earth has been preparing for this longer than anyone realizes. The Nexus confirmed his intuition, displaying a global network of similar chambers hidden beneath major cities. All of them were activating simultaneously, responding to the Kethmer incursion. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be diplomatic, it would be a battle for survival, with the future of both species depending on a paramedic and an alien widow who'd found love in the midst of war. As they prepared to emerge from their sanctuary, Thalari placed her hand over her stomach where their daughter grew. Carrying the hopes of two worlds, whatever happens, she said, she'll know she was wanted. She'll know we chose love over fear. Above them, the real war was just beginning. Children of two worlds 3 months later. Dr. Rebecca Morris stood in the transformed chamber, beneath what had once been Kai Mitchell's quiet suburban home. The space now served as the primary command center for the Human Zephyrian Alliance, its crystalline walls displaying tactical information from battlefronts across 6 continents. The Kethmer invasion had lasted exactly 72 hours before collapsing under coordinated resistance from every awaken Nexus chamber on Earth. Humanity's response had surprised everyone, including the invaders. Turns out, when faced with existential threat, humans could adapt to alien technology remarkably quickly. Status report. Kai requested, bouncing a 3-month-old infant who gurgled contentedly in his arms. Little Naya had her mother's silver hair and her father's green eyes, but her most striking feature was the way she seemed to glow faintly when happy. Cleanup crews have eliminated the last Kethmer stragglers in the Australian outback, Major General Hayes reported. The military leader had adapted to working with extraterrestrial allies with impressive flexibility. Casualty reports are better than projected. Having Zephyrian medical technology made all the difference. Thalari looked up from the bioconsole, where she was analyzing genetic samples. Her pregnancy had been remarkably easy by human standards, though she'd given birth in a pool of bioluminescent fluid that had taken Kai some getting used to. The result was worth any adjustment period. The compatibility trials are exceeding expectations, she announced. 17 more human Zephyrian pairs have successfully bonded in the past month. At this rate, we'll have a stable hybrid population within a generation. And the cultural integration? Dr. Morse asked. Kai smiled, shifting Naya to his shoulder. Better than anyone hoped. Turns out humans and Zephyrians share more philosophical common ground than either species expected. Both cultures value family, bonds, artistic expression, and environmental harmony. Through their mental link, Thalari felt his contentment and responded with warm affection. The bonding had deepened over the months, creating a partnership that transcended traditional marriage. They shared thoughts, emotions, and dreams literally. Since Zephyrian sleep cycles included shared consciousness experiences, Naya made a soft sound that somehow conveyed complex meaning. Both parents instantly understood she was hungry and curious about the holographic displays. She's already demonstrating enhanced cognitive development, Thalari noted with pride. At 3 months, she's processing information at the level of a human toddler. But with Zephyrian intuitive awareness, she's also empathically gifted, Kai added. Yesterday she somehow communicated with Mrs. Patterson's cat. They had what looked like a full conversation. The integration hadn't been without challenges. Religious leaders worldwide grappled with theological implications of humanity's alien heritage. Political systems struggled to accommodate refugees from other worlds. Environmental groups celebrated Zephyrian biotechnology that could reverse climate damage, while corporations worried about economic disruption. But in quiet moments like this, watching his daughter explore the world with wonder that bridged two species, Kai felt nothing but gratitude for the choice he'd made. "There's something else," Major General Hayes said hesitantly. "Long-range sensors have detected 3 more refugee ships approaching the solar system. All Zephyrian, all carrying children." Thalari's expression brightened. "Survivors. I thought all the colony ships had been destroyed." "They'll need sponsors," Dr. Morse noted. "Human families willing to provide stability during integration. I might know some people," Kai said with a grin. His old emergency response team had volunteered almost immediately after learning about the hybrid program, something about saving lives transcended species barriers. Naya reached out with tiny fingers toward the holographic display showing Earth from orbit. The planet looked different now. Zephyrian bioships had taken root in various locations, growing into living cities that cleaned pollution while providing homes for refugees. The sight still took Kai's breath away. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 months since I found you in that field," he told Thalari. "Found me?" She laughed, the sound like musical bells. "I chose your location specifically. The Nexus identified you as genetically compatible weeks before my arrival." "You mean this was all planned?" "The location, yes, but not the love, Kai. That was unexpected." "Beautiful, but unexpected." Naya gurgled agreement, reaching toward both parents with the absolute trust that only children possess. In her eyes, Kai saw the future not just for their family, but for both their peoples. A generation that would grow up thinking it was perfectly normal to have friends who could photosynthesize or whose parents came from different star systems. "The next colony ship arrives in 4 days," Major General Hayes announced. 43 refugees, mostly children and adolescents. "Then we'd better start preparing welcome ceremonies," Thalari said. "Zephyrian children need to feel the harmony of their new world immediately upon arrival." As if on cue, Naya made a sound that carried harmonic overtones, causing several biocrystals around the chamber to glow in response. Her parents exchanged a look of shared amazement and pride. Outside, the sun set over a world that had been irrevocably changed by love bridging the gap between species. In homes across the globe, human Zephyrian families were creating something unprecedented, a truly interstellar civilization, based not on conquest, but on connection. Kai held his daughter up to see the stars appearing in the darkening sky, each point of light now representing possibility rather than lonely emptiness. "See that one?" He pointed to a bright star near the horizon. "That's where your mama's people came from. And someday, if you want, we'll visit." Naya cooed and reached toward the stars as if she could already feel the call of distant worlds. Behind them, Thalari smiled and placed her hand on Kai's shoulder, completing the circuit of family that would help shepherd both their peoples into a future neither could have imagined alone. The last ember of Zephyria had been rekindled not through conquest or desperation, but through the simple, revolutionary act of two lonely beings choosing to trust each other with their hearts and their hope for tomorrow.